I don't care how many pennies or cents or dollars we're talking about. If it's their music, they put in time and money to make that music, to have it on music platforms. They should get paid. So Spotify is saying it only wants to pay legitimate artists and rights holders. As an independent artist myself, I'm very interested in what this means. In today's video, we're going to go over two things. One, I'm going to recap all these changes that Spotify is making in the coming months, which is going to impact our ability to make money and actually get paid. I'm also going to go through your comments and I'm going to address the most frequently asked questions because you guys had some fantastic questions. Hey guys, I'm Top Music Attorney. I'm a real entertainment attorney and I'm here to break down what's going on with Spotify and who is it going to impact. So I figured let's start with just again the recap of the policy changes. The first and the most important one that we're going to discuss, that Spotify is introducing this new minimum annual streaming requirement in order for you to even get paid. Okay, so this means that a lot of artists and producers are going to get demonetized on Spotify. And I can kind of correlate this to how it works on YouTube. If you have a YouTube channel, you kind of know in order for you to even get paid, you have to have so many hours of watch time, so many subscribers, and this is just the land of YouTube. So then the same kind of way, with Spotify is like, hey, let's do the same thing. It is different though. You know, in YouTube land, it has to do with ads that are being placed on your videos and your right to get paid for those ads that are on the videos. But here, it's the right to get paid your royalties just by having your music on Spotify. So what Spotify is saying is that essentially it's taking this, what they're saying is 0.5% of the Spotify library conglomerate, which as I understand it is over 100 million tracks. So I get it, there's a lot. And I think what Spotify is trying to say is, look, we're ingesting something like 3 million tracks per month every day. It's about 120,000 new tracks. It's a lot. But what they're saying is that because we're ingesting so many tracks, and now we have this new problem of generate AI platforms that are just busting out songs galore and sometimes in the millions. And they're also sending their stuff to Spotify. So this is causing this massive dilution of independent artists, independent producers' ability to actually break through. The reality of whether you're going to have a song that just goes viral is pretty much the same as you winning the lottery. And a big part of this is because things have changed. There's no gatekeeper to getting your music on Spotify, and now we're competing with AI platforms. So Spotify is saying about 24% of the library on its platform is just not getting any streams at all. So we have like this tier down here, nothing's happening whatsoever. So I mean, they're not getting paid anyway, right? But then tier up now, they go, well, there's also this huge chunk of the library that is getting such a small, inconsequential amount of streams that we just want to reallocate those pennies, which collectively is going to be something like $40 million that will then just be sprinkled out amongst everyone else on the platform. And what they're saying, again, going back to they're instituting this, you have to have so many annual plays on your track in order for you to now be monetizable, in order for you to actually get paid. Now, what Spotify is claiming is that if you have a track that is earning less than 5 cents per month, you're going to get demonetized. So we do some quick math on this, and that's where we're coming up with this. Well, that's approximately 200 plays annually, which is about 17 plays per month. Now, for me, you know, just going back to like YouTube, demonetization happens because you have an automated system doing the work. And so you might have someone who gets demonetized and maybe they didn't fit the criteria, right? And then this whole like, you have to be qualified as a legitimate artist and rights holder. What does that mean? So if we're saying, well, you have to be like a professional musician, how would an automated system know that? So my concern here is that, number one, there's a whole group of people who aren't going to get paid. I don't care how many pennies or cents or dollars we're talking about. If it's their music, they put in time and money to make that music, to have it on music platforms, they should get paid. But setting that aside, if now we have kind of this system in place to verify us and as will otherwise cause us to get demonetized, I mean, look, we're just going to have a host of problems. Now, one of your questions that I thought was really great was from Jim Jones for Life asking, doesn't copyright law require pay performance reproduction? Great question. The way that it works with copyright is that you are the copyright owner. You have the exclusive rights to reproduce, to copy your stuff, to put it on music platforms, to get it out there, those are your rights under the Copyright Act. Well, what happens is that because you have to go through a music distributor, such as CD Baby, Preamp Digital, and then they send your stuff to the music platforms, you are giving them a license to send your stuff. So if your stuff is now on Spotify, you are complying, or you have to comply with whatever their terms are. So if they say, look, you have to have 200, 500, 1,000 plays before we pay you, and you continue to have your music on their platform, well, that's just what they get to do, and you are agreeing to it. So it was an interesting question. Copyright and being the copyright owner prevents a distributor from just taking your music without your authorization, but it doesn't just automatically entitle you to payment if you are impliedly agreeing to it by having your music on the platform. Now, conversely, you could say, well, then I guess my only remedy is to take my music off Spotify. I hear ya, but that seems really unfair in that in order to exist as an artist, in order to have any chance of someone discovering your music and making new fans, you have to be on all these music platforms, including Spotify, including YouTube. Another great comment from, I think it's Prayer Bear, but just talking about, okay, so if 200 streams per year on Spotify is roughly 80 cents, if that's what artists are up in arms about, I think their energy is poorly focused. Now, I disagree with that just a tiny bit as far as like, I don't care, it's my 80 cents, I want it. But if these artists spend a fourth of the time promoting their actual music, looking into alternative ways to increase plays, such as Facebook ads, social media promo, direct, DMing other artists, similar fans. I love all of that. And that's kind of the sentiment of like what I do with this channel. Top Music Attorneys about having a free resource to help you figure out how to monetize your careers. Because before Spotify even talked about making this change, a lot of you probably weren't making your millions from the Spotify platform. So it is really important that you figure out what are the other things that you can sell as part of your career, right? Can you teach what you know, right? Be an instructor or a coach? Can you put together, sample packs? Can you do top lines? If you're a singer, can you be a studio musician? So that's an important piece of this and kind of learning how to make yourself profitable. But nonetheless, it's very important that we know what's going on with platforms like Spotify. One other comment that I thought was really great was from Lewis Brave. So he goes, did you notice the pattern over the last decades? The more companies make money, the less they pay. One, the subscription fees increase to the customer. So same thing with Spotify. We went from $9.99 to $10.99, and those monies are not being paid towards your royalties, FYI. 2, the number of customer increased. 3, the consumption increased. 4, the revenue increased. 5, but the artist creators payment gradually decreased every year and will get worse. So, while Spotify is trying to sell this as we're going to reallocate 1 billion to artists, right? As we're now reallocating money, I don't know. I think there are going to be a lot of people who are negatively impacted by these changes. Now, the second policy change is that Spotify is going to be cracking down on all the fakery. All right. So record labels, distributors, artists, if you are faking your plays, if you are buying not just fake streams, but there are bots and all the things, now you are at risk of getting fined. And what I'm kind of curious about, back to the whole, if they're instituting systems in place, because there's no way real humans can do all of this and manage 100 million plus tracks, we want to deal with cheaters of the system, and big record labels are some of the worst offenders with this. I promise that they are. I've been doing this a long time, and they will boost the major label artist numbers just as much as small independent artists. But nonetheless, if Spotify is going to fine someone for the fakery, well, are they going to have a process in place to appeal that fine? What happens if you get fined and it was a mistake? What if you happen to have a song that went viral on a certain platform and then you had a ton of traffic out of nowhere and somehow that triggered the system? I mean, this stuff does happen on other platforms. And so I guess one of my questions is not just with the fine, but also, are you going to get penalized in that maybe your profile gets shut down? So that's a piece of this that I'm very curious to see as they continue to kind of roll it out. How does it look? What are the fine amounts going to be? Is it even fair? Do they have a good system to be doing this? And then the third policy change has to do with the minimum length of time for these noise tracks. So these are non-music noise tracks, right? So binaural beats, ocean ocean sounds, if you like to listen to wind while you're sleeping, or the train sounds. I love all that stuff. The way it used to be was that the track had to be at least 31 seconds, and that would trigger payment. All these guys that would have these playlists that just sleep to, they were getting paid. And in fact, I even have represented some artists and producers who unfortunately got dinged and they ended up getting their stuff taken off music platforms, and then they lost, access to their money on music distributor platforms, which, by the way, they can't just keep your money. Please make sure you hire an attorney or message these music or the distributors. The distributors can't keep your money even if they kick you off. But there were mistakes happening because they were getting such large amount of streams and numbers. So now that Spotify is cracking down on this, Spotify is going to have a minimum amount of time that your non-music noise content has to be in order to trigger payment. So if you want to get paid, you're going to have to go back to the drawing board, take down all of your short 31-second songs. And now let's say if it's 4 minutes, right, that's going to be the minimum threshold in order for you to get paid. So it's going to be a pretty big headache for those of you out there who are otherwise using this tactic to get paid previously. But then I go back to just these definitions of if it's a non-music noise, what if you're just putting out beats as a producer and you're doing industrial music, or it's just kind of random because you're very avant-garde? At what point are you going to kind of dip into this non-music definition? And now you need to have these really long tracks, because a lot of our tracks aren't that long, right? They might be 2 minutes, 3 minutes nowadays. And so this is another piece as far as the implementation of what they're trying to do. And the common thread through all of this, I can feel if I was sitting with the Spotify team and I go, gosh, we have these generative AI platforms and they're just, pushing out AI generated music in the hundreds of thousands and they're putting it on our platform, and we don't want to pay for that. They're not legitimate artists. It's just, AI created content. So how do we deal with that? So I can see how they're trying to maybe think through this, but at the end of the day, the ones who are going to suffer are going to be artists and producers. That's just how it goes. So if you are an artist or producer, this channel is dedicated wholly to helping you build your music business, to become your own label, to learn to just think and grow like a label would, so you can monetize and have a sustainable career. So drop a comment down below. What do you think about this? Be sure to subscribe. I'll catch you guys on the next one. I'm top music attorney, Miss Krystle.